System is very difficult because people always tend to make fun of you when you speak because some of us have accents and it's very hard to understand some of it. So I mean, I'm gonna say that that's just a little bit of my story.
My name is Amanda. Once again, I would think it's because knowing your own kind. I would just, for me per se, I feel comfortable more around my fellow Africans than I am African Americans. Being that yes, I can speak my own language, or I can be around people who listen to the same music. There's something that we may have more in common than we may have with African Americans. So, like that's just how I view it. And also the way we are brought up. There's some things that we do or how we were raised from African Americans that are different. If everybody can understand what I
mean. Okay, well, I'm pretty much in the middle, born and raised American, but very much African. So, I don't think that Africans mean to separate themselves and to not repeat what anyone else said, but I think Amanda's right, you do kind of flock to your own kind. But I think that organizations like ASA can bridge that gap and kind of bring us together because we are one people. We all come from the same place, whether we're split up or not. I don't think it should be that way. And that's why things like this forum happen, so that no one will separate themselves and we can all be together.
Thank you very much. Second question. In your own opinion, is there a difference between being African American and being African? Y'all like that question?
In my opinion, I think there is, because being African, we have a culture, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain things that we do that African Americans don't do. Like, I know, like, at home, like, when, like, let's say you're giving an adult something, you don't give it to them with your left hand, you give it to them with their right hand. African Americans, they don't do that. So, like, you don't disrespect your parents. I've seen some African Americans disrespect their parents. You know what I'm saying? It's just certain things that we do that, like, they don't do, if that makes sense. Anybody else want to?
I feel that, well, my own personal opinion is that, like, being Nigerian, there's such, there's such a responsibility for you to, like, know right from wrong and know that it's like my parents tell me all the time that there's a time for everything. And to know that when there's a time to laugh and joke, but there's also a time to get serious. And majority of the times for us to always get serious and to know that when we walk outside, we don't just always just look within ourselves, look within our families as well, and to always remember that.
What I would like to say is that, yes, there is a difference between being African American and being African. I am African American, literally, meaning that I was born here and I was raised up in an African home because my parents are African. But as for being an African, I consider myself being an African, not an African American. So if you ask me anywhere, I'll just be like, oh, I'm African. So there is almost a difference, because when you ask an African American or tell an African American that, oh, you're from Africa, they're going to say, no, I'm not. They're Indian. Well, that's the most answer that I've seen. So in that sense, yes, there is a difference.
Oh, yeah. Okay, is there a difference between African and African American? I think we can clearly see there's a difference. But back to what I was saying before, there shouldn't be. I think Africans, we kept our culture, like, we got to stay. And we all know about the slave trade, so we all know how that went. And that might be why African Americans they're kind of stuck between the middle. And I'm like Amanda, African American as well. But if someone were to ask me are you African? Like, I would say just like her, because clearly you assume that I'm not American. But the differences we have cultural differences. Americans, white Americans, Caucasians also have differences in their upbringing, but we're all going to be different, just like her and I might be different because we're coming from different backgrounds. Does that mean that African Americans as a whole, I don't think we can generalize that. Like, you'll find an African American who's very much like whatever stereotypically we think African is. So I don't think it's fair to really say because of, upbringing and all that. Different parents have different ways. So we are different, but we shouldn't be, which is why ASA is here.
That was beautiful. Third
So I checked the black or African American box.
I choose the same one, they choose African American.
African American for my sexual.
African American.
African. I mean black/African.
Does anybody in the audience want to answer the question?
That question that was
Or comments?
Okay, so I'm from Nigeria. Like, I'm an international student. I'm from Nigeria. So, like, most time, so far, while because I did my application in Nigeria, obviously, but like, I for one have never seen. Maybe it's because like I'm probably blind, but I haven't seen black or African American. So mine is quite obvious. I just go to other and then I put Nigeria or African Nigeria.
I think what the differences is because where I'm from in New York, I don't know if you like different or anything, but there are some African kids that would, it's just kind of more of, I'm not going to say I'm African American because I don't like African American, so they would really just search for that other box and put African. They would disregard that whole black/African American and just go straight to other African because it's out of like hate.
Anybody else?
If there was a box for African, I would check African.
Thank you. Next question. Do you honor or have learned to honor the cultural and regional diversity of the African American past in regards to slavery?
Can you repeat the question?
It's open to the floor too if you guys want to answer.
Can you repeat the
Ask
question?
Can you repeat the question?
Do you honor or have learned to honor the cultural and regional diversity of the African American past in regards to slavery?
Hi, my name is Tariq Floyd, and I do personally because I feel as though history repeats itself, and a lot of the stuff that's going on in our society in America is happening in Africa and vice versa. Personally, I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, but my older brother, he's adopted. He's from Ghana, so I can relate to some of the issues that you guys are that's going on. Because the issue with him when he first came over was when he went back to see his biological parents that he became too Americanized, and his parents were kind of mad with my parents. And like in regards to just relating to what you guys are saying, I'm sorry to go back to the other question, but I was just thinking, I feel as though it's important to keep your roots, like even though when you're over here, because your roots are who you are. For example, when you say when you give your parents something, you give it to them with your right hand. That's something that just that's your culture, and that's something that you should be able to pass on to other kids at Virginia State, because that's just something that sticks out and makes you different. So that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else want to answer? Oh, the question one more time? Okay. Do you honor or have learned to honor the cultural and regional diversity of the African American past in regards to slavery?
Alright, so I'm gonna try to tackle this question because it's really deep and complex. But if anybody has done their history, there's a man by the name of Mensa Musa, and he is one of the richest human beings to ever step foot on planet Earth. He had billions and billions of dollars. He was from the Empire of Mali. And just going back on that, if you see a lot of African Americans, or Africans in general, we like to wear gold, or we like diamonds and stuff like that, because it's something that's been enriched in our body. When you look at many of the flags, it has green, yellow, and red to symbolize green for the land that we fought for, gold for, or yellow for, the power, and gold, and red for the blood. And a lot of times with him, it's what he was saying about, what Tariq was saying about culture. If you watch Roots and different things, they teach us to always embrace our language, because that's something that we can always pass down to our kids. And it's really deep because when I was growing up, I was born in America. I was born in Silver Spring, Maryland. And my mom, she basically taught me the language, so I speak the language fluently. But when I get around my friends and different people that are from the same area and we go out in public, we're actually able to communicate without anybody else knowing. Because when Tariq came over to my house, my aunt was trying to tell me, yeah, make sure you ask him if he likes jerk chicken, because you feel me, I don't know, it might be too spicy. So Tariq was like, David, you speaking the language? I was like, yeah, bro, you feel me? But it was just awkward. But I knew what they were saying, but he didn't know what they were saying. And that's something that I feel like Africans, we tend to look down upon, because when our African American or when our African parents teach us a different language, we're like, nah, like we can't do that. Like, it's looked down upon. But anybody else? I mean, that's just for me. You feel me? Because I'm African American. I'm still African, but anybody else on the panel?
The question was, do I respect African American culture? Personally, I do, because history tends to repeat itself. If you look at American history, a lot of it, Africans, came here, had slaves and all that. You can see that, our history and their history is kind of close. So, and it builds up regardless of, some people might not take it as it is, but I personally believe, and respect the culture, because it's kind of related to each other.
All right. Next question. Do you believe that African American genres of music, dance, have been influenced by African genres of music and dance? This is open to everyone. Do you believe that African American genres of music and dance have been influenced by African genres of music and dance?
Personally, I do agree with that, because when I was in high school, I used to prom, and basically most of the moves that we do, we watch it from African dance, African dance videos, and we incorporate that with angry. So yeah, we do.
Hello. I would also like to say, I do believe that there are many different type of African dances that are incorporated into African American dances. For example, the Zanto dance. That dance is carried over. We broke through gaps. Also, the Al Qaeda. It's similar to an American dance that they're doing now. So there are a lot of different type of dance moves that are done that are carried over from African culture to African American culture, and vice versa. So I think the influence is very heavy.
Panel.
I've noticed that through music, especially through beats, a lot of beats that we hear nowadays are very tribal heavy, very drum heavy, and they tend to remind me of beats from Nigeria back home, back in the village. Just having throughout amazing parties, they have a lot of drums being played, and the sounds are very similar.
I would say yes, it has, being that, for females, the way we dance, the winding of the waist and all of that, you can see that in the African American culture and how they dance, or certain things that yes, some African cultures do kind of steal some beats and steal some songs and sing it all over again in their own version. But yeah, we have influenced the African American